Hey, how's it going? I am going to read you some cards and talk about some stuff. Please see the signs that I'm showing you and my forehead. Okay. So, I pulled a total of 5 cards. I think part of the reason I started to sort of go stale on my readings, like, to me, they were stale, or they were just like subpar. And, get out of here. Oh, okay, maybe that won't work. Hold on, I have to make an adjustment, because you gotta be making them all the time. Okay, God, you're obnoxious. Get out of here. That is driving me nuts. I don't want that in the picture. Okay, anyway, oh, you're just gonna, like a bull. The red's driving me insane. Okay, so, just felt like I wanted something different, and I often pull other cards sort of coincidental with the reading that I talk about, but I don't talk about those because they're usually personal, and I get personal enough on here, so I do keep a little back occasionally. But I thought, maybe, what if I just like kind of mix them together? I know a lot of people just do that, and the reason why I don't do it more often is because, honestly, I don't feel like I have a very good command of my understanding of working with the tarot cards. But every once in a while, one will be like, show this. So, anyway, I just had threw like 3 for today, and then a couple of other ones that I pulled just for the heck of it. We'll see how it goes, if it'll be interesting. So, I do have, of course, always something personal going on, and I don't want to go into it too deeply, because Nunya. But, I have also been thinking a lot about a Netflix original series that I've watched recently called The Brother's Son. And I will include cast information, or I won't put cast information. I'll put the trailer in the information section of this video. And I will talk about the cast and mention some names. And if you want to know more, you can certainly search it yourself. So, but it really made me think quite a lot about family and your position in them and your position in life, sort of like your family obligation, and then your obligation to yourself, for your sanity and sense of well-being and centeredness and all of that stuff. And I don't know if you know this, but family can be kind of taxing. They kind of have a lot of expectations from you, and particularly Asian, like Chinese. Like this story, well, it's interesting. It's definitely like they speak Chinese, but I think where this family in the movie are from is Taiwan, actually. So of course they're going to deal with China. But and I don't know if you know about news on this side of the screen, but China is trying to be independent, and China is like, no, you're part of China. Enough of this independent nonsense. So that's like a real thing that's going on, like right now. I'm not sure where it stands. I know that we're Taiwan's ally, and I don't think we can say that same thing about the U.S. and China. I think we're wary fellow Pacific Oceaners. I don't know. It's it's a touchy, sticky thing. But in this show, well, actually, before I start talking about that, I have to say, when I was in school, I don't remember what subject it was. It must have been like social studies or something. Or maybe it was English and we were reading like a Pearl Buck book or something like that. And Pearl Buck, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the book now. I don't think she was Chinese, but she wrote like two pretty thick novels about life in China. And it would have come up in either of those two sources at school, because the subject that I want to talk about here about the Chinese people was filial piety. That's Filial, filial, and piety, Piety. What does that mean? It means showing like utmost respect for your family, basically, for your elders. And many cultures care for their elders and take care of their elders far more than we do here in the U.S. Respect the elders far more than most cultures in the U.S. I'm not going to say all, because I'm not talking about immigrants. I'm talking about like native USians and super native, ultra native, OG natives would be the Native Americans, the indigenous people, and they have like a totally different level of respect and way that they respect their elders and their culture. And a lot of us here, well, we just don't do it the same way. It's a funny thing. Like, I have a sort of a wild hair about, why are you moving? There's no wind in here. Anyway, I have a wild hair about this thing that I've heard so many times. I've heard it in life, not to me personally, but like within feet of me, probably since I was a young child, because I used to live in East LA, and there would be like gangsters around, and then you got to see it on TV and in movies, and it got to be this weird blown up thing. But there's a thing in gang culture where you gotta have respect and blah blah blah. But there's also this thing, and this is my wild hair. They get all crazy if they don't even know you first time they ever laid eyes on you, and they're like, you disrespected me. And my response is always, I don't know who the fuck you are. Why would I have to respect you? You actually have to earn my respect. I haven't said it very many times, because there's not very many people in those situations that you can actually say that to, because by the time they're like, you disrespected me, they're already half out of their mind anyway. And remember, I'm talking about gangsters here, so, you know, gotta be very careful and maneuver with respect for yourself, for your life and state of being. But I'm not, like, I never would, like, give over to that respect thing, like, whatever. Like, if they are, like, coercive about it, then you do it, but it ain't real if that's the way that you do it. Like, fear is not the same as respect. So, in a way, that's kind of like how it is for a lot of sort of like lost culture society, or lost culture, I guess races. Like, I am one of those people who can only guess at my background as far as like the African part, because obviously am black, right? But obviously not just only that. But the white part is pretty easy to source, because all I have to do is like check my last name, and which I did, and I found out it comes from Scotland, and it's what the Scottish accent has done to St. Paul. But that's not, my name is not St. Paul. And I have a cousin named Duncan, and there's all these Scottish names in my family, so it's kind of like, that's gotta be it. But the black background, I know way less about. I can only make a guess that it's like a West African country, but that's like everybody. I don't hear any people that I recall talking about having, slave relatives from like the Congo or something, not West Africa, But that's like a whole other area of study that I haven't and don't know that much about. And it's not something that I'm gonna like. It's not one of my financial goals to find that out. It's not on my list of priorities. But there are cultures there too where the elders are respected and they're taken care of and revered. And so I'm saying that's not how it was in my family. It was more a coercion thing, especially as the older people died. The younger people were like, I don't want to be bothered with this. I kind of felt like it was like, I don't want to be bothered with all these other people's kids. And it became, I felt like, a really kind of harsh place to be, the family. So back to the show and the Piety. Sorry, spoonerism. Yeah, filial piety. I felt like I said it's spoonerism, but I guess, I don't know, it doesn't matter. So I learned about this in school, and it was particularly it was the Chinese people that I was learning about at this time, and The Good Earth. That's the title of one of Pearl Buck's books. Sorry. Fairy godparents. Anyway, so in the particular story, I believe the family was quite poor. Maybe they had stuff one day, but like a village official somehow cheated them out of it, and they couldn't recover their loss because it was a government official, and they were harsh and cruel, and they were putting like the village's profits in their pockets, so the people just had a really hard time, and their land was like fallow, which meant like nothing was gonna grow, and they just were like starving to death, basically. It was like a really hard life in the story, and everything went to either the youngest or the eldest, and definitely the eldest first, because they have the knowledge, wisdom, and they were just loved and respected so much that it wasn't like a grudge or a hardship to give everything to these elder people. And in this show, that wasn't the like feature of the show. I'm just bringing it to your attention to help explain like why these people in this family went through what they went through for each other, and even when it was the last thing they wanted to do. So in the show, the family's son is a crime family from Taiwan, and the father of the family, the patriarch, is a crime boss. What is the gang? I want to say Tongs, but yeah, I guess they're Tongs. The Chinese gangs, like in Japan, they're the Yakuza. Sorry. So yeah, Tongs, and and remember, it's not even China; it's China adjacent. So Taiwan, which I think is where Michelle Yeoh, who is the female lead, is from. So they're patriarch of the family, when the show starts, gets injured and is hospitalized, and so the wife and eldest son, have to take over, and he has two sons, and the eldest son is there with him in Taiwan. Well, the mother and the youngest son go to America to live and be safe from the gangster activity. And it's a very male-dominated scene, and with the gangsters and that, and very macho, and uh, there's definitely a patriarchal thing, a hierarchical, but it's patriarchal, and well, we know what that looks like everywhere, so it looks the same, just in kind of a different framework here. But when the father is in the hospital, it kind of falls to the son, and the son is like extra hyper violent and not very smart and strategic. Like, he thinks he knows everything. He knows a lot about the gangster life, but his knowledge is kind of limited. And he's got like a secret side that he can only like indulge in kind of secretly, and it's not like totally macho. And basically, this oldest son's life is, you don't get to have fun, you don't really get to have love, you don't get to have a life, and he's young, and of course he wants all of the things he can't have. And then meanwhile, the mother and the son are in America. They're in Los Angeles, Chinatown. And the mother, you don't know this right away, but she comes from a rich family, and she's, as the father later calls her, a spoiled brat. A privileged spoiled brat. And, excuse me. God, what is the deal? I cleaned my face. Okay. So, she, is like a maid job, like cleaning people's houses. So literally scrubbing toilets, which is the polar opposite of how she grew up in that. And she has one of the two sons that she has with the man back in Taiwan. Excuse me. And this son is creative. He's studying to be a doctor, but he wants to do improv, and he's good at that. But he is soft, and he's afraid, and he did not grow up fighting. And the older brother, the way that he became the violent individual he was is basically what was a test for him. He over excelled, and at 14 earned a name Chair Leg because he murdered a whole room of men. Oh, man, he was only 14, and that wasn't even the goal. And so they didn't tell him it was a test until way later. And it was like, I mean, most parents, if all they wanted to do is see if their child was gonna like wilt like a wet tissue, is one thing, but the son thought that the attack was real because they were like at a dinner and all these armed men came in, or not armed, I don't know. It was a lot of martial arts, but sometimes there were guns too. But all these men came in and like threatened the family, and people were knocked down, and so it looked really real. It looked real to me. I didn't find out. I found out when he found out, like several episodes later, that it was just a test, and he way over like exaggerated. But no one stopped him, no one corrected him, because the father wanted that from him. He wanted a soldier, he wanted a scary soldier, and he wanted a devoted soldier. So that's what he got out of the older son. Younger son, raised in America, mom's totally undercover, not even, like, nobody even knows who she really is, who either of them really are. She's like got a circle of friends at her mahjong club, or yeah, mahjong club, we'll call it that. I don't know what else to call it. And some of them are like the work officers of the court. Others have sons and daughters that have roles in various areas of society or are criminals, like other Tong gang members or gang leaders, whatever. She's got like this information network. So, this is all going on, and she's being the full-on tiger mom to the son, and he is like her most valuable commodity. She loves him to death, and she indulges him, and she really doesn't want him to do improv, though. She just wants him to be a doctor, and she knows he's like the soft son. And so when the father gets killed, for some reason, the older son leaves Taiwan and comes to America. Like, leaves the whole gang thing just unattended, which I thought was an interesting take. But He comes to America. He's a gangster. He's doing like all these kind of shady gangstery things. Not as bad as like Narcos or anything. Like not at all. But illegal. And then he finds out that another uh, immigrant from Taiwan is someone that he knew growing up, the older son. And it was a girl about his age, and I guess she just always, they were friends, and she grew up, and well, they both grew up obviously, and she obviously likes him more than friends at that point. So I think that's a little confusing for him. And he is torn because he wants to like be with this familiar friend like his own age, and he's also obviously attracted to her, but she's actually assistant DA, so she's not a cop, but come on, she's cop adjacent, so she's a cop. So they have that weird little dynamic going back and forth. And so he comes to America and he experiences a taste of freedom and of being the ability to be himself. And it just undoes him really because he's got the filial piety. He's got to be like this monster for his father. And he really doesn't know how else to be. Like it is a learning curve for him to adjust to like having a mother and being respectful to this woman that's your mother. And this mother that she plays here, Michelle Yeoh plays, one of the characters describe her, she doesn't use weapons, but she'll kill you with, I'm paraphrasing, but she'll kill you with passive aggression. And she's great. Like, she'll slice you with her tongue. It's awesome. So I saw all of that, and like the violent son, is so like wrapped in many pieces or broken into many pieces, and then just kind of slapped together and was held together with like tape. His younger brother drives him insane because he's not hard, he's not gangster, he doesn't know how to fight, he's afraid of everything. And he's just infuriated that he got to grow up that way. And the mother protects him, and like she even says, and I think this was a mistake, I don't have children, but I would hope that I would have enough sense not to say this is my most important thing in life, which is what she said about the younger son. So the older son is just getting a glimpse of like, oh my gosh, people can be nice and everything's not all beating up and killing, but I'm not the one she loves the most, but he can't even express that. So he's even got that in there, fighting, like just fighting emotions inside his torso, poor thing. Fighting emotions in his torso. On the one hand, he wants to be the son his father wanted him to be, made him to be. Like he grew up that way. He doesn't know how else to be. And then he comes to America and sees how easy life can be. And oh my gosh, I can have fun. I can do karaoke. And like he fights it, but he finally does it. So I just thought that was, I don't know, it just really stuck with me. So now I'm going to talk about the cards that I pulled. So I pulled two from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck. And the first card I pulled was Joyful Muse. Like, oh, wait, this has always been there, but I can partake of it. And, the guy does get, like, crazy inspired at various times. I don't know exactly what he was baking, because his, like, soft side guy stuff was baking. Like, he talks about it. He suffered. There's a time in his life where he's forced to sit still, and he's got an auntie that takes him into the kitchen with her, and so he learns baking, and he learns to like it. Like, I'm sure from like fighting and worrying about being fought and or killed, or making the patriarch angry because he's not nice. Like, don't screw up. He'll silver, sweet, silky tongue, but also slicey. So I guess those two, his mother and his father, kind of made for each other. He gets to find his muse, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, my gosh, we all have things that we have to deal with, and we need to be able to. The subtitle on this card is inspiration, and we need to be able to, like, allow that part of us to happen, to do what it wants to do, because it feeds your soul. Like, gives you a reason to live. It's far more important than the fighting and the pushing each other around, and the capitalism and the fighting for money. So I'm gonna read what the guidebook has to say about the Joyful Muse, and why are there 3 cards here? Oh gosh, now. Okay. Anyway, they usually only have 2, so I have pulled like a whole other card. One page of a whole nother card. That's what that was. Anyway, Joyful Muse. Oh yeah, it's the number 33. 33 generally, or it's the first thing that comes to mind with that number, is God. Although if you add 6 and 6, or 6 and 6, 3 and 3, you get 6. And I forget what's important about 6. Let me get a little piece of note here. Okay, don't waste the whole paper. I always do that. I'll grab a whole blank sheet and then write like in a stupid place, and yeah, 6. Look into it. I have meanings in my mind, but I'm waiting because there's something I'm supposed to see when I go look. So the Joyful Muse, inspiration, the gift of play, inner child. The inner child, that poor guy could never let out. I can't remember the name that he was in the cast right now. The Joyful Muse invites you to be more playful, to have more mirth and joy in your life. You have become boring to yourself, even as others continue to find you interesting. Well, I became boring to myself. I don't know about the others finding me interesting part. That's on you. Anyway, circumstances have dulled your edge, and it's time to change. Agree. Not the things around you, but your attitude. Agree. Blow a morning kiss to yourself in the mirror. I often do. Smile to a stranger. Wink to a child. Be mildly but elegantly inappropriate. Done. The Joyful Muse is a source of inspiration, a wild and disruptive feminine force that compels you to invite more pleasure and delight into your life. Give yourself permission to be mischievous and find humor in the tragedy, while careful not to become frivolous. Oh, okay. The power of this muse will shake up everyone around you and invite you to create beauty and grace out of the pain and tragedy you perceive in areas of your life. Just like that son, that elder son. The Joyful Muse often comes at a time when darkness prevails and the future seems dour. Embrace her gifts, being playful without being silly. Invite the child inside you to come out for a play date, and he or she will help you to return to your innate innocence, the place of never been there, never done that. I don't know where that is anymore. Never been there, never done that. That feeling, even if it is in the same routine you wake up to every morning. Well, I mean, I think we all do that every day, and maybe it's not so officially spiritual, but you kind of have to, I feel like, or you're going to lose your cotton picking mind. So I gotta call. I gotta throw a flag on that part about not being silly, because in another Michelle Yeoh movie, in another Michelle Yeoh movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Remember the husband with the googly eyes, and she was always on him about being silly, and it was like, that's kind of the key to life in a way. You do, like the muse says, have to have times where you can like let loose a little bit, but you also gotta hold it together, because I mean, maybe your father's a crime lord. You got responsibilities. And so it was kind of like, okay, so this card, the second card I pulled, is Feast of Plenty, and the subtitle is Choices and Their Consequences, number 20. So the twos are all just 11s to me. Let me just break it down. So this card always reminds me of the Seven of Swords, because it's Feast of Plenty, and you can see there's various things, like there's swords, there's a bee, there's like a crystal breaking right through the top of it, crystal formation. It reminds me of the crystal formation, reminds me of, where is it? Wait, where's that thing? Oh, here it is. Oh, it's like this little tiny quartz wand, but it's blue as like sapphire. So I don't know, like, I don't think sapphires form, where'd it go? What'd I just do with it? Oh, come on. It was just right here. How do you lose something? I didn't even go anywhere. Well, anyway, here's another one. It's like this shape, as you can see. Wait, is that the end? No, that's broken. Where's the one I just had? That one has a perfectly good shape. Well, anyway, I don't think sapphires form that way, but I don't know. I don't know that. I love that color blue. And something else, like, you know, I like to sort of watch a bunch of other stuff and just pass my day before I start doing this, my own reading. Oh, that's not the one. Oh, yeah, it is. Well, I've just looked in there and you weren't there. Well, anyway, this one, yeah, that one's broken too. Why are these broken? I don't know if they grow this way with this sort of, can you, am I even showing it? Whoa. You can see it grows in this cylindrical shape, and I'm trying to, I don't know why the ends are snapped off of both of these. Well, anyway. Oh, so I was going to talk about the other reading that I watched, and this was interesting because, like, super interesting. And I'm going to come back to this, but the other reading that I watched before this, she talked a lot about Archangel Michael, and that is a lot of what the color Archangel Michael is often associated with the color blue. That is what I'm trying to get out. And one thing that she said is that he shows himself in all kinds of different ways, shapes, and forms. These aren't blue, but they reflect, they're neutral. And if you shone light through these, you would probably get some blue. So, I mean, you can't even see it, and it's there, but that's, whoops, that's kind of how angels are. You can mostly sense them unless you're super sensitive. And I don't know how it would manifest. I don't know if you would see like a full-on apparition figure, or just a sense, but she was seeing in her reading all kinds of different ways, and sometimes it was the color blue, and another time there was an illustration on the card of a person, but the shadow of the person was like this. I don't know, this is going to be an obscure reference, but there used to be a show about dinosaurs, and it was kind of like mostly puppets and people walking around in like mascot costumes. But one of the dinosaurs was a teenage son, and he had like a Letterman jacket and teenage clothes. But if I remember correctly, he had like a ridge piece like that would go down their back like a dinosaur. And I want to say kind of like a stegosaurus, like how it went from like the head all the way to the tail. But instead of being like this one solid sort of fin-like deal, it was like palm fronds, like long pieces with like pointy ends. And that's kind of like what the shadow looked like. No clothing, but just like a lizard face and like some kind of hand doing something, but like the profile. And this is a shadow, okay? And so it had like the lizard face and then like this fin business, but it was like individual points, or I don't even know how to call them, protrusions. But it was like the shadow of a person, and I think they had like a small table next to him, and that was like the tail. It was the weirdest thing. And she's all, look, right behind him is Archangel Michael, and I'm like, okay, I see a lizard, but okay. You know, maybe in some ways, shapes, and forms, Archangel Michael comes across as a lizard. I don't know. So, Feast of Plenty is the card, and the subtitle is Choices and Their Consequences. So I thought that was so awesome that came out with this, when I'm talking about the show as well, because everybody in the show is making like all of these momentous choices, and like no one expects the mom to come out of nowhere the way that she does. Like, she's had hidden herself so well, and even if she was who she said she was still hiding something, because she has the knowledge that a lot of people want to get their hands on. Because I guess, I don't know if this is true, but in the story they say that in the tongs, like, no one knows who the leadership is. Like, no one knows who's at the very top, except for very few people. They barely know each other, you know, who the other one is, and they meet in the show like for the first time in 40 years. So they have like an idea of who it is, but they're just not sure until then. But she knows, like, she either figured it out or was told, and so they call her the Rolodex, and she becomes very valuable for that. But she's also this gangster's wife. Despite where she came from, like rich, legitimate circumstances, and she just like totally took to the criminal life, just gets it, and is ambitious. And so she wants to take over because, like I said, I don't know why they didn't focus more on this, but everybody at the leadership of this particular tong is either laying in a hospital bed, supposedly in a coma. Turns out later he's not. Spoiling everything. Always with the spoilers. But I just thought it was weird that like all of the leadership is either comatose or gone. Like, wouldn't things just go to hell? I don't know. Never been in a gang, but let me just quickly read what the and those are some interesting choices, huh? Guidebook. Feast of Plenty. Options, choices and their consequences, life's blessings. A great feast is laid out before you and requires you to choose. What will satisfy your hunger? Something new and unconventional, with its potential for bitter and savory qualities. That's so funny. Bitter and savory. If you ask for flavors of Asian foods, those are two that you're gonna get, and if it were like American food, you'd be all bitter, ew. Not so in like Chinese food. There's such a wider menu of flavor options. I just think that's funny. Anyway, so it's not bitter is not bad though. uh, you are faced with a plethora of options right now, and while they may seem to be an extraordinary thing, too many choices can throw you off balance. I can attest to that. You might be worried that once you commit, you won't be able to turn back or refuse to confront the consequences of that decision. Oh my gosh, this is that poor son so much. Because everyone is making choices in this show, but this poor guy is so bound by his existence that he doesn't feel like he can make a choice that doesn't fall within his really narrow confines. And I mean, he's confined, like, I don't know, like being wrapped up in a very narrow box and arms and legs taped together so that you can't really move. Or, I mean, the guy was really constricted. And he was afraid to make a choice. And then he comes to America and it's all choices. And you can tell he's totally flummoxed. He thinks he's going to be in charge. Not in his mama's house, and also not in his dad's house. So where does that leave the poor guy? He's got very few choices, and the ones that he has, he's either afraid to make because they're about baking and like feeling good for a change and having something just for himself that he actually enjoys for no reason, as opposed to the other part of his life, which is work, and it's hard, and he has to like ignore the friend that grew up to be someone that he would like to be his girlfriend because she's a cop. He can't have anything to do with her, and he can't change because his father expects so much of him with the tongue, and also his mother, and the brother is like, enjoy the feast, like have a life, let all of that go. And he even just hearing that makes him mad because he's like, I can't do anything. I get it. Not the same circumstances at all, but I can't believe you can get through life and not experience something like that situation at least once. So you're faced with a plethora of options right now, and while that may seem to be an extraordinary thing, too many choices can throw you off balance. You might be worried that once you commit, you won't be able to turn back or refuse to confront the consequences of that decision. Good luck with that. You can't ignore consequences. You can try, but that's going to make your life harder, in my opinion. The most important thing to realize is that the feast is offering you experience. No amount of overanalyzing or strategizing will help you make the right choice now. Like, that comes after the choice, I think. Don't debate the right or wrongness. You can't do it wrong. Instead, just choose. In the choosing is the seed of experience, and that is what is necessary now. Sour, bitter, sweet, savory. Umami. Oh, sorry. Umami. What matters is relishing the experience until you digest all that your choice is offering you right now. See, you gotta do the thing, and then you can savor the experience. Only one wanting to avoid the same choice. Oh, only one warning. Avoid the same choice if it keeps you hungry. If something didn't feel good or does not bring you what is seemingly promised, do not do it again. I personally have faced that choice, and I've gone back and forth over it, and finally I was like, look, how many times can you deny what you feel, what you know is right, has been proven right all over and over? It's detrimental to continue down a path that you know is not right, and I have definitely been down the path many times, but recently even, where I was like, this ain't right, this ain't right, I don't feel right about this doesn't feel good, I should not be doing this, I don't want to do this. And then over and over, it's like, I'm right about what I was saying, and I cannot deny what I am intuiting that turns out to be true. So stupid to ignore it. Moving on. Sorry. Only one morning, I already read that. The experience will only repeat itself, and you will have more than a bad taste in your mouth, which is why I said, stopping now. No nasty. Nasty is not one of the flavor options. It's sour, sweet, bitter, savory, umami. There's no nasty. The feast is yours to enjoy. You can always go back for more when you're hungry again, for life's blessings are ever available to you and calling your name. So, speaking of the choices and the consequences, and, getting out of the situation that is bad vibing you. And that was another thing that came up in this other reading. And the funny thing is that I had a decision to make about whether I wanted to keep going down the path that I knew was just not right for me. Like, it just wasn't. And I was tempted and urged to keep doing it. Because, it'll get better later. But it's like, nuh-uh. I need better sooner than that. I'm not going to sit through a bunch of crap. Because what I've learned as I get older, finally, they say you have control over your own life, and you can, well, not everything, but there's a lot you can control. Well, that takes some learning and getting used to, and also freeing yourself from stuff. For some reason, never gets easier, but this was the other awesome thing. This was the other card I pulled from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck. This one. The Lion. And I had made a choice yesterday, like a pretty big one, of the variety that I was just saying, it just was not hitting me right. It wasn't sitting right, and I could not continue to do it. And I pulled this card, and the first thing I said when I pulled it out was freedom. And the first time I've ever said that about this card. So I'm going to get back to it and talk about that other reading, because she also, one of the third, I think it was the third card she pulled was Lion. And I'd like to watch her, too, to see what same cards we pulled that day. And to my surprise, we often pull almost, I'll do a 5-card pull or a 3-card pull. There will be 2/3 of the cards we pull the same. So I don't know what that is, but I think it's something. So I'm going to just read real quick what the guidebook has to say about the Lion. And the Lion has the upright triangle with no lines, which makes it a fire sign or fire element card. I got cheetah, wrong big cat, furry spider, wrong animal. Okay, come on now. Okay, too far. Still too far. I don't think it's this direction, but I should look. Yep, other way. Sorry, I'm taking long. Here it is. Lion. So, as you can see, it has the upright triangle, like I was saying, fire element at the top, and it does sort of look like about where his nose is where it goes from sort of blazing sundown looking light, and it just gets dark like it is the sundown happening back there. Cats are nocturnal. Just saying. So the book says, patient, regal, a complete master. The lion is a master of the fire element and the living mascot of self-transformation. A lion personality dictates their life to personal and spiritual growth. This dedication inspires and intimidates others. Therefore, the lion is respected by all but known intimately by few. Okay, I'm just going to point this out. I'm not saying anything either way. That I went through all of those things that I said about respect from it needs to be earned. But the difference with filial piety is it's just baked in, because when you're young and rebellious, maybe you don't understand the value of older people and their wisdom. But in a lion pride, that's a family. That family is a lock. It's instinctual. Like, they don't even have a thought of rebellion or separation unless there's too many males in the pride. That is a whole other thing. I'm not going to talk about it, but sometimes, if there's too many males, all of a sudden there's like solo males on the I was gonna say prairie. That's probably not what it's called in lion country. But anyway, get back on track. A lion personality dedicates. Already read that. This dedication inspires and I already read that. The lion as hard. Oh, some mistake the lion as hard to access or aloof. Oh my God. So I almost changed my board earlier to born aloof, because I was singing a song to myself earlier. Born aloof. Oh shoot, I can't do it because of stupid. There's a song by Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, I think they were. That doesn't seem right. Well, anyway, Johnny Thunders did the song Born to Lose. Was it Johnny Thunders? Am I getting that right? I'm going to have to look that up. I think I'm getting it wrong, but somebody sang a song called Born to Lose. So I was just running around here earlier saying Born Aloof, because, I don't mean to be. That's just the way it worked out. And I almost put it up there too, but then I thought of the licensing, and I was just like, I hate that. Anyway, some mistake the lion as hard to access or aloof, yet those with a keener eye know better. Lions are observant, stealth, and precise in their words and actions. They do not waste energy or resources. This card reminds us that self-mastery is available to all, no matter where our quest begins. When in balance, the epitome of peace and strength. When out of balance, withdrawn, too serious. To bring into balance, daily meditation and friendship. Well, those are all nice thoughts. But I'm more of an aloof solo lion that got kicked out of the pride. Not my choice. It's so funny how that really reflects on my life. Except for the male part, I'm obviously... Well, and maybe it's not obvious. Obviously not a man. You get it? Woman. Hear my voice? But I'm a cat. Weird. Sorry. But a lion on his own, solo, out of the pride, that's free. And I think, like, I'm a cat person. I love cats. It doesn't mean I don't also love all the rest of the animals. Cats, actually, the first animal I ever wanted was a dog, was a puppy. But it just worked out that a cat was the better choice, because you can more or less, like, leave the cat at home and go to work, and it's okay. Well, it's better than a dog, I guess, because I have never come home to the furniture in pieces because I left the cat alone. Anyway, Yeah, I mean, people do tend to stay away from cats, and I would think they seem aloof, but I think people just know you can't, like, get too close to a cat and start screwing around. They will, excuse my language, fuck you up. They got teeth and claws, and cats don't have words, and so if that's the real, this is the real, like, if you look at them funny, not just a gangster, not like, if you don't look at the wrong, if you look at them the wrong way, you know, you're disrespecting them or whatever, and they'll like want to attack you. It's not really the same thing with a lion, but kinda. Still gonna just respect the lion first, without any questions, without any experience, because I know about the teeth or claws. Gangsters, you get a little bit more leeway, like you can maybe talk to one. Although if they're already wound up in the "you disrespected me" stage, keep your distance is what I'd say. So the other two cards, just for the heck of it, just to try and make it more interesting for myself, are tarot cards actually, and I pulled two, and the one is Justice, and look at the woman in the picture. Is she not an Asian woman? One thing about that story, particularly to do with Michelle Yeoh's role, was that the father, do you remember I told you about how the son, the older son, became the soldier, the hard fighter? Well, the mother knew about this test where he overexcelled, but because she was having to be under the father as far as authority, below him, beneath even, in a lot of ways, because actually the father turned out to be a psycho. Like, all he cared about was his own success, his own power. Like, everybody around him had to make him look good. Sound familiar? But he himself was kind of empty, and definitely, like, didn't care much about life, was violent, but it was all like, if it worked out for him, great. So, like, everybody around him had to look good, and that got to be confining and constricting, and not just for the older son, because when the father was down and no one was at the helm, finally the mother was like, well, somebody's got to do stuff, and she knew so much, and she was so smart. And like, one part of the story was that she was a great strategist, but the father at one point says, you're always 5 steps ahead of me, you were always 5 steps ahead, but I was always 2 steps ahead of you. But he really wasn't. It was really just that he could throw his weight around and be a brute. Like, that was what was in the way, not his strategy or intelligence. And so she was trying to move in and take his place. Of course, it was all male dominated as far as the leaders were concerned. And so she really had to prove herself and outwit not only the other gangs, but her own husband, and also at a period of time, the older son, because, like I said, like, he wasn't dumb, but he wasn't strategically smart, and also he was fighting all this crazy emotional stuff going on inside of him, like, be the dutiful son and stay violent, or, God, you know, can I just be over here and bake and do karaoke? Well, that doesn't feel right. Like, the poor guy. But it works out in the end. It takes a lot of violence, unfortunately, but it's in the script. It's part of the story. And to wrap up, I just want to say that I really appreciated a lot. See, like, I grew up in a time in the 1970s when there was lots of great martial arts movies. And Robert Rodriguez used to have a cable channel called El Rey, and a lot of the content was those kung fu movies, and I actually used to love it. And I hadn't seen them since I was like, like under 10 or under 12 years old, young. But I used to live in this building my family owned, and it was a quadplex, like a duplex, but with two more. And it was all family that lived there. And I had an older boy cousin. He was probably like 3 or 4 years older. And he would watch me some afternoons after school, and downtown LA was really close, so we could go to matinee theaters, to the movie theaters they had downtown at the time, and see the matinees, and it was always a kung fu movie or a blaxploitation. I don't know how he was a kid too, somehow we got into Superfly. It was like rated R. I don't know how that worked, but anyway, I saw some great movies with this cousin. So, I had developed a taste for this young, but, as time has moved forward, guns, and it's kind of like, nobody's gonna be kick fighting when there's guns. But in this show, there was both. I mean, people had guns, but also, it was almost like honorable for them to do martial arts, and it was a pleasure for me to watch, I'll tell you that, because I love fight choreography in like film and television, but man, I have exacting standards. Like, one thing that I've been having a problem with is, I'm so sorry to say this, but it's just the truth, in my opinion, aging actors, don't do it unless you're in shape and you're up to it, because I do not want to see the fight. I do not want to see the fight choreography. I don't want to see one guy execute his move and then wait, tick, 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 for the other guy to finally make their move. Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to be able to see it. Like, it's got to be fluid and continuous and more like a dance than like a mechanical steps, and and that's one of the beauties of martial arts movies from Asia. They know how to do it. Even in this movie, old and fat guys were like whoop, 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 pow, and it's like, come on, do better. Do better TV and movies. So anyway, that is today's reading. Thank you and good night.